This is part one of recovering from abusive relationships designed for men who are going through custody battles, who are with somebody who's a narcissist or a borderline, somebody who's showing toxic behavior or traits around that. And what we're going to show you in this is how to understand the disorder more, but in a way where we could work our case at the same time and understand how to fight a person like this so that we don't continuously lose. We can find ways that we can properly expose them and show the courts, which are usually blind to this, or CPS workers, DCFS officers, friends of the court, all these different third parties who they normally trick. We're going to show you how you can do this right so that they don't manipulate you while manipulating you through the system and completely screwing you out of custody. This is one of the things that is just so brutal with men and women, but this course is designed for men. If you're watching this and you're a woman, man, try and adapt the different things. But as we're going to talk about here, there are differences. So let's start off with this part here. And we start off with understanding the dysfunction. Everything before that in the PDF are intros. Why is this for men? All these things which are very important, but I kind of want to jump to the meat of this. And this is what you need to understand. If you don't stop this, it's going to destroy you. This is not just a bad breakup. This isn't something that you just imagined. You didn't cause it. And yet you're feeling guilty about everything. And what you do have to do is you have to face it and you have to learn how to fight it. Okay. Now, what we're going to actually cover in a couple of videos down in this, and if you want to skip ahead to PDF 2, you were made for this. You were chosen, selected, you were honed in it. This is what happens with victims of narcissists. You are put into roles of codependency and all these different things, and they are your responsibility. But right now, as you were honed into this, you were shaped into this, you were made into this, you've got to wear a different hat and learn how to fight this, okay? And so you as a man in this, what's really important is to understand that if you don't stop this, it's going to attack you in different ways. She's going to leverage third parties, the courts, judges, lawyers, all these different things to work against you. And the system was made for somebody like this, like her, attacking you and be able to take full advantage. And the consequences, especially if you're a man, are worse than her turning you against your friends. They're worse than what you're already experiencing with your family. This could mean severe parental alienation for years, your kids being, having depression, more probability for addiction, higher suicide rates, really horrible stuff. We'll get into that if you can't stop this. And so this is what this is really designed to do. So let's go over some of the common dysfunctions. And in this, we're going to talk about NPD. We're going to talk about narcissistic traits. We're going to talk about BPD, borderline traits. NPD is narcissistic personality disorder, but the difference between that and the traits. We're also going to talk about Munchausen's by proxy. Actually, in the next video, we're going to talk about toxic behavior in general. And probably when you listen to this, you're going to go like, oh my God. And probably you've been studying things like NPD and watching other YouTube channels on this, but this one is specifically designed for men. And it's also specifically designed to help with your custody battle, okay? So this is a fairly long list, and that's why we broke PDF 1 into multiple videos. But narcissistic personality disorder in women, okay? Seductive, intelligent, they're admired publicly, they do well in social circles. Behind closed doors, they're controlling, cruel. We hear a lot about the covert narcissist. What's interesting is you explore in this PDF series, what you're going to see is how women could be rewarded in our culture for NPD, and men are too, but in different ways. Like, so for instance, a narcissistic male is going to seek power, authority, dominance. He's going to talk down to a woman, a certain type of woman. But a narcissistic woman is going to be rewarded for her empowerment, her overcoming and use of feminism and exploiting it. This is something I wish more people talked about, is exploiting feminism so that she could show that she is empowered and take advantage. And that's going to turn into her humiliation of you. That's going to prevent you from wanting to fight back or wanting to stand up for yourself. Obviously, I don't mean fight back in some sort of violent way, but to stand up to this person, to be assertive, to be healthy. And it allows a different type of manipulation. So obviously, we have the other traits of lack of empathy, distorts reality to maintain power. She'll idealize you one day and destroy you the next. Okay. Totally amazing at wearing masks, one mask for social media, one mask to fit different niches and complementary perspectives that people have on females, different archetypes of a woman. So to be a boss or to be a victim or to be somebody that just cares so much, that relies on passion or ingenuity, overcoming odds, these different types of stereotypes that we have of people, archetypes of people that they find in our society that they use to benefit themselves and benefit their image. And what's interesting about this is that within this, a narcissist is always going to have a group of yes men. Okay. And so men and women, they're going to have groups of people that support them. They're going to have an enabler who's their hero. They're awesome at creating chaos. And this was you. This is the interesting thing, right? This was you. You were somebody who was their support system, their backbone, the person that allowed them to cover up their mistakes, to argue against the world and fight the world with. And this was also used to give you value, to give you a sense of self, to allow you to build the bonds of love, right? And so that's all part of this manipulation. Now let's look over some common narcissistic traits that are just in normal society. So a person doesn't have to have NPD in order to have these, but high stress, our society empowers them, our society almost teaches them. And again, these would be different things that our society would show a man as opposed to a woman, right? They're going to be different. And so that means that the effect on the person being abused by this is going to be completely different. So obviously there's gaslighting, there's the love bombing, there's the hating, the manipulation, the covert aspects to it. And the covert aspects for a woman, covert is covert, man, woman, but a woman has more opportunities for that to go deeper within a man because she's not going to get as much resistance. They're just different. It's really not one is better or more intense than the other. It's just that if you were going to a therapist or somebody to work through these or get coaching and perspective and hear stories of men going through this, being attacked by a narcissistic woman, it's going to be a different experience and solution. So the love bombing, the devaluation, the discarding of you, the you begging back, these are all similar attributes for men and women going through this, but a man is going to do it completely differently. It's humiliating. It's something that he will only do in this situation. There will be no other examples of it. This will add to his secret, the deception of it. And oftentimes, because female narcissists will communicate sexually, to their men, it's going to build a certain bond. And all these different things sexually are going to come out. And in that experience, what's so terrible about it is then that will be used against him as being, broadcasted publicly and within the courts and third parties, CPS officers, and so on, as being a predator, as being somebody who's potentially, going to assault women or harm kids sexually and these types of things. So very common that move into the false allegation playbook, the whole silver bullet. It's terrible, and men go through it every single day, and you have to fight it very differently. The triangulation, that means using the kids and therapists and different stories from different people to attack you in one way. And the interesting thing in that, and what we're going to find out, is there's lies within all of that are different that you can learn to, turn that against them or defend yourself in the proper ways. But all you see is people judging you for something, and probably something that you're really passionate about not being. And now it's as if everybody believes it. This is part of the gaslighting trick of it all. So there's a lot of control through shame. There's a lot of control through seduction, silence, freezing you out, raging on you, and then flipping it over publicly so that you look bad. You are always the person who panics or gets emotional around other people. Well, she can be a victim or more acceptable in the way that she's behaving. This is going to happen over and over again. Now, once again, there's narcissistic personality disorder, which is something which is within them. We're going to talk about the origins of it in a couple videos down from this, but within PDF 1. And then there's narcissistic traits. It's very hard to distinguish each one. And as you go through this course, the diagnoses is not so important. It's more the pattern that you're going to uncover with this. Okay, so let's take a look at borderline. Okay, so borderline personality disorder in women, and statistically it's more common in women, but as we go through history, statistically NPD is more common with men, but we're finding that there's a whole lot of women without it that may not have that, or with it without that diagnosis. And so with BPD, this is very emotional, hypersensitive, flips all the time, really puts you on the pedestal, more than somebody with NPD. Like an NPD person is going to strategize to win. A borderline person has to win, but if they don't, they will actively sabotage themselves and everything around in it. Okay. And so there's some differences in it. Again, this isn't so that you get the ultimate diagnosis. This is ultimately so that we can find a pattern and look at what we're up against, because that pattern, dysfunction repeats. Okay, that pattern's always going to be there. It won't be helped. Okay, so there's a huge, severe fear of abandonment with borderlines. If you leave them, they will go insane, cause a lot of harm for that, a lot of sabotage. Idealizes you quickly, but then also will demonize you, right? And especially if you personally attack them, or if there's like a slight towards them. One thing that you might think is like a compliment or whatever, and just like, man, you're taller than most people. And she interprets that the wrong way, sees it as a slight against her. And it's like, well, what did you mean by that? And with somebody with NPD, they're going to attack you, they're going to go to war with you and all that. Somebody with BPD is going to sabotage and then blame you for it and these types of things. Okay, so lots of suicidal ideation, lots of self-harm. Oftentimes these women were cutters early on. Crisis is the emotional currency in this, and is going to project her pain onto you, okay, and blame you for triggering it. So this is kind of interesting, like a narcissist, oftentimes, right? And again, this is more about what's your pattern with her that we really want to find out, that we really want to get to, okay? And a narcissist might say, why did you make me do this? You're making me be a mad person and angry, or let's say they get caught drunk driving or something, and it's your fault. And a borderline may say the same thing, but then there's an element of self-sabotage, that I'm going to show you that this destroyed me and perhaps harm myself or sabotage myself in some way so I can blame you for it. Okay. In a lot of ways, it gets more volatile and can be a little bit more scary. A borderline is willing to sacrifice themselves to destroy you. Okay. Whereas in a lot of cases, a narcissist may walk away. And again, when you look at the patterns of your relationship, which we're going to show you how to walk through and do, you're going to see which one is there. And there's answers to both. And they're hard, they're difficult, they challenge deep, deep sides of you, but there are answers to it. Okay, so when we look at borderline traits, so these could be things that could just be common in culture with high stress or somebody going through a traumatic moment, but they may not have the permanent disorder. Either way, it's dangerous. Like, this doesn't really diminish it, but when these traits come up, and they may not have all the traits, we might just need to look at how that trait is there. So with the NPD traits and the BPD traits, that's there. So driven by fear of abandonment, okay, you're either the savior or the destroyer. There's nothing in between. Crisis is her currency, suicidal threats, meltdowns, chaos. She will use kids for guilt and emotional leverage, oftentimes even blaming the having kids with you ruined my body or ruined me. And these could be, again, thoughts that a lot of people may think, but they're going to throw that like the kerosene to make you feel guilty for that. Okay. You become responsible not just for her feelings, but her survival. So this could be somebody that is functioning in a lot of ways. And, some people might assume they're not so bad off. And the manipulation is usually deepest when it's private. But with this, you are ultimately feeling responsible for them not falling apart. And you're going to give extra money, time, sacrifices. You're basically going to harm your own life and take away your own life, or take away from your own life, so that they could survive better. All right. So extreme outbursts, all sorts of embarrassment, these types of things are huge. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about in terms of toxicity is postpartum depression. Now, please understand this: being a mother is a beautiful thing. The natural process of different swings that come after motherhood, it could be all over the place. And this isn't everybody. Postpartum depression or any of these things, they're not anything to be ashamed of because they come from somewhere. NPD, as we're going to find out, comes from abuse. Borderline comes from abuse and trauma stresses, and then them being, shaped into survival skills in their childhood, and things that could even be good about that disorder in their in their young adulthood and so on, and then it flips and gets out of control. Okay, so these aren't things to hate or dislike somebody for having them. There's ways to treat them, and they say there's no reversing of NPD or BPD, but there are ways to manage it. And so with something like postpartum depression, oftentimes after childbirth, and this could be 3 years after, there's something where there could be an over attachment or a rejection of the child. So it's hard to be a parent, and we raise parents in, two party households, or one parent households, or two parent households. And in that, there's a tremendous amount of stress. And when that can happen, there could be an over attachment, a paranoia about that child's mental health or physical health or sickness, of their role in the definition of being a mother, flooded with so many different hormones and great, beautiful things. But then also that could flip to resentment. And so it could go both ways. And both of these things can be dangerous for you, because if there's an over attachment, there could be an excess fear, a lack of trust with you, in her mind, comparing herself to you over and over again. So this could fit with that narcissistic template of idolizing you, but then she thinks she's irreplaceable with her child, which is true. Both parents are. And for that, it's like, well, wait a minute. I did everything for this guy, and he can't raise the child in the right way. This is BS. Let's go look at some online stuff about how we don't need fathers, or women can do it all, or a single mom's life, and these things that may not take into consideration the father's role in that. And then we start building resentments to cut the dad out. And man, this is the story with so many men who go through this. So a lot of instincts of protection, instincts of motherhood, that turn into fear, paranoia, fueled by unresolved resentments towards the man. They get carried away to start having different paranoia, looking at him. And perhaps you had an amazing sex life or something like that, and it went all over the place, and you were both in it equally. But then she starts going, oh my God, I got to protect this child and this child, da, 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 da. And, or maybe she has a detachment from the child, but oh my God, remember the sexual behavior that we had. This goes into his childhood. Maybe he has trauma, da, 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 and I got to protect the child, but I hate the child, but now I'm confused. And this builds more confusion, stress, and lack of clarity. And again, man, these things are not talked about enough. If we are having consistent psychological problems with men or women in our culture, they need to start being addressed, not in gossip, blame, hatred, and these things, but find solutions to where we could get the manageability of it, all right, treatment of it, and we can not rely on just hysteria and gossip and blaming people. Okay. So there's going to be a with postpartum panic and these types of things, there could be a refusal to co-parent, an obsession with medical issues, psychological issues, and oftentimes fabricated. This is where we get into the Munchausen's by proxy, which is very, very common, but in custody, for some reason, like you can do psych evals and stuff like that to prove NPD or BPD. You can get a psych eval for Munchausen's, but oftentimes in courts, what we find right now, as I'm recording this in September of 2025, that it's for some reason it means less to most judges, which is really terrible. And just so you know, in this, what we're going to talk about quite a bit is how to set this up so that this could be an argument in your custody case. And if it can't, like NPD, BPD, postpartum, Munchausen's, these types of things, if it can't be in your custody case, there's still excellent ways to fight it, which we've proven works for men. So again, I'm not sure if it will work for you, but we have a group with a massive group at this point with the highest density of men who have won only high conflict custody, and almost every single one of the guys has an ex with a personality disorder, some sort of psychological ailment, that we're still able to defend the harsh attacks, prevent a lot of the traps that family court sets, and then win fair custody in the end. Whether fair custody is full custody, if we have 50-50, we're protected, whatever it is what we want as men. And it's very, very hard. So I'm just going to wrap this up with this last thing. And this is probably one of the most important, that's going to segue into part 2 or the next video in lesson 1, is common female personality disorders in high conflict custody. Okay, so historic traits, drama's a tool, it manipulates, and you are manipulated by that drama. So the more that drama goes up, the more you fear not doing the right thing, you're not walking the high road, you can't just forgive, or it could be the drama goes up, you don't want the conflict, you want to be avoidant with it, and you want things to be able to calm down, and it's for the betterment of the child, and you're very concerned over these things, and so you give up in many, many different ways. And there's a whole list of those things. There's dependent traits, okay? So helplessness as a manipulation tactic. So she could feel helpless. She could also make you feel helpless. And so then you cave in all sorts of different ways. In terms of covert narcissism, which is most common that we see with guys in our groups going through high conflict, where their ex is attacking them, is she's going to play the victim. And this is all part of this orchestration of destruction for you. And that orchestration of destruction, what makes this unique in a custody battle is that that's going to be things like false accusations, CPS, tying you up with legal bills, anything to destroy you in any way, whether that's legally, whether that's through false claims, which also result in legally, but it could just be none of that, but just tying you up in court in all these different ways, all to really destroy you, while mastering that narrative to be a victim. Okay, so involving family and friends, that's just a given. She's going to try and turn your family against you. This is one of the things that almost always happens, like the phone call of why I'm leaving him and what he's doing and this type of thing. And can oftentimes be successful for even long periods of time, but oftentimes short periods of time. And it builds a big rift. Men, it's terrible, when their families start to believe that they are the abusers and they have to prove that they're not. They're not just, it's like they consider her as truth. Now, friends and family, that's going to be huge. Friends, her family, she's going to involve all of them, and you're going to try and fight it. And that's a mistake right now. We have to focus on you and the legal side and building a new support system for you. That's one of the most important things you need to understand. You need to build a new support system. You can get your friends back, but this should not be your first move because she's going to be way better at it than you. Okay. So social obsession. So she's going to show that she's powerful. Social media, she's going to blast all over that she's winning and better than everybody else. You're evil. And her power comes from her victory to say no and stand up for herself and women's empowerment and she's a boss or it's empowered woman type thing. Finally, she gets to leave. And she was really keeping it a secret that you were such a bad person or such a loser or such an abuser or whatever. Gaslighting, distorting reality. This is going to be a history. This is going to be one of the hardest things. Why I think you really need to work with a therapist or get in a group similar to ours or something that's very powerful that can support you, because gaslighting has been happening your whole relationship. You're being gaslit now into thinking you're crazy or you're wrong or need to apologize, but your whole relationship, the gaslighting has been happening whole time. Okay. And you probably can't see it yet. Okay. Munchausen's by proxy, and this is fabricating illness to gain control and sympathy of others. So, like, you're manufacturing that the child is sick, that there's something in dire need, and this is all to get attention and to stay occupied. And it's a disorder, man. It is a huge. I wish more courts, when they got the psych evals where we show this is happening and there's a diagnosis of it, that they took more action on it, because it is so dangerous. And that's the thing that is ignored more than NPD. Oftentimes men don't know how to show NPD in a custody battle or BPD, but Munchausen's, we can show it properly, and judges, they go for other stuff. But like I said, that's okay. There's still a plan for it. False allegations are going to be massive for somebody with a personality disorder in a custody battle. Okay. It's going to get out of control. There's going to be emotional manipulation at first. There's going to be accusations to friends and family. But once it progresses, she realizes she can get attention with it, things like CPS or the state get involved, and that has to, like, you want to stop this before it ever gets there. And if it does get there, you have to know how to stop it legally. Okay, it's really, really important. So this gets dangerous, guys. This gets really, really dangerous. And I want you to understand just how serious this is. If we're studying this and we're going down the YouTube rabbit hole, what I want to do is offer you direct resources to help you understand how to defend yourself legally, but also how to deal with the psychological aspects of this, the victimization of it. Many men don't like being called a victim. I don't know a better word to call it. You are, straight up. You're being victimized by this. And it's a horrible, horrible thing. Thank you guys so much for watching. And let's get on to lesson 2. And if you're watching the live stream of this, then, man, you're just going to have to wait for that for a little bit. All right. Talk to you guys soon. And we will see you later.